The dragon Taijo had been trapped for over 500 years. His prison was not made of stone or metal, but something far worse, a bubble between worlds. He could see the stars and planets, but could not touch them. He could watch life grow and change, but could not join it. And worst of all, he could see water everywhere, but could not drink a single drop. Once, Taijo's scales had shimmered like jewels under alien suns. Blues and greens had rippled across his body when he flew between the stars. Now his once beautiful scales were gray and dull. They hung loose on his massive frame. His eyes, once bright with ancient wisdom, had grown dim with pain. Taijo was the last of the celestial dragons. His kind had roamed the galaxy long before most races had learned to make fire. They were not just animals, they were keepers of cosmic balance, guardians of reality itself. The dragons needed water not just to live, but to use their powers. Water connected all things, flowed between dimensions, and carried energy across the universe. Water, Taijo whispered to the empty void around him. His voice was barely a croak after centuries of disuse. Just one drop, but there was no one to hear him. The Galactic Council had made sure of that when they trapped him here. The Council ruled most of the known galaxy with an iron grip. They claimed to bring peace and order, but really they brought control. Any race that would not bow to them was crushed. Any power they could not understand was locked away. The dragons, with their ability to move between dimensions and their refusal to be ruled, had been their greatest fear. So they had hunted the dragons to extinction. All except Taijo. He had fought bravely in the final battle, but in the end, the Council's science had proven stronger than his magic. They had created this special prison just for him, a pocket dimension where he could watch the universe but never touch it again. They think I am already dead, Taijo thought as he drifted in his prison. Perhaps they are right. Days blended into years and years into centuries. Taijo watched helplessly as the Council spread across the stars. He saw them find new worlds and new races. Some joined willingly, others fought and lost. The pattern never changed. Then one day something new appeared in Taijo's field of vision. A small blue planet far from the center of Council power. Humans, they called themselves. They were just beginning to reach for the stars, unaware of the greater galaxy around them. Taijo watched with growing interest. These humans were different. They fought among themselves, yes, but they also showed great kindness. They created beautiful art and music. They asked big questions about the universe. And most importantly, they were fiercely independent. The Council will crush them, Taijo realized with sadness. Unless, for the first time in centuries, hope flickered in the dragon's heart. He began to study the humans closely. If he could somehow reach them, warn them about the Council, perhaps they could prepare. Perhaps they could even help free him. But his prison was designed to be escape-proof. He had tried everything over the centuries, pushing at the walls with his strength, using what little magic he could muster without water, even trying to tear through with his claws until they broke and bled. Then, after watching the humans for nearly 50 years, Taijo noticed something strange. A small crack had appeared in his prison wall. It was tiny, smaller than a human fingernail, but it was definitely there. How? He wondered, moving closer to examine it. The crack seemed to be focused on a specific point in space, a small colony the humans had built on a planet they called New Sol. Something about this place was special. The dimensional walls were thinner here. Taijo pressed his eye to the crack and focused all his remaining energy. For the first time, he could see the actual surface of the human world. He saw their buildings, their vehicles, and the humans themselves walking about their daily lives. And then he saw her, a young human female walking alone near the edge of the colony. She was small, even for a human, with dark hair that fell to her shoulders. But what caught Taijo's attention was the way she moved, as if she could sense things others couldn't. She kept looking around, pausing to touch rocks and plants, her head tilted as if listening for something. She can feel the dimensions, Taijo realized with shock. This human had a natural sensitivity to the cosmic forces that most beings couldn't perceive. It was incredibly rare even among his own kind. The girl walked to a strange rock formation at the edge of the colony's boundaries. The rocks glittered in the sunlight, but Taijo could see what the humans could not. These weren't ordinary rocks. They were crystallized dimensional energy, places where the walls between worlds grew thin. The girl, Taijo heard another human call her Hana, sat down beside the largest crystal and closed her eyes. Her hand rested on the crystal's surface. This was his chance. Gathering every bit of strength he had left, Tejo focused his mind on that single point of contact. He pushed his thoughts through the tiny crack in his prison, aiming for the girl's mind. Help, he projected, the effort causing him terrible pain. Please, help! The girl jumped up, looking around in alarm. Who's there? She called out. Here, in the crystal, trapped. Tejo struggled to form the words in a way a human could understand. Hana stared at the crystal, her eyes wide. There's someone in there? Yes, dying. Need water. Centuries without, please. The effort of communication was draining what little energy Tejo had left. His vision began to blur and the connection wavered. Who are you? Hana asked, her voice trembling but curious. Tejo. Last dragon, prisoner, dying of thirst, a dragon, Hana whispered, reaching out to touch the crystal again. Like from stories? Real, not story. Need your help. Council coming. Danger to your people. What council? What danger? Hana asked, but Tejo's strength was fading fast. Water. Bring water. To crystal. Will explain. With that, the connection broke and Tejo collapsed in his prison. The effort had nearly killed him. If the girl didn't return with water, he might not have enough strength to try again. In the human colony, Hana stood frozen, her hand still on the crystal. Had she imagined it? Was she going crazy? But the voice had seemed so real, so desperate. A dragon, she whispered to herself. An alien dragon asking for water. She looked back toward the colony where the evening lights were coming on. No one would believe her if she told them. They would say she was making up stories again, or worse, that she needed psychological evaluation. Hana looked down at her water bottle, then back at the crystal. It couldn't hurt to try, could it? Just a little water on a rock. If nothing happened, no one would know. Slowly, she unscrewed the cap of her bottle and poured a small stream of water over the crystal's surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal began to glow with a soft blue light. The water didn't run off as it should have. Instead, it seemed to sink into the crystal itself, disappearing completely. And from somewhere very far away, Hana heard a sound like a sigh of relief. Thank you, came the voice again, slightly stronger now. Come back, tomorrow. Bring more. We'll show you truth. The glow faded, leaving Hana alone in the gathering darkness, her empty water bottle in hand and her mind racing with questions. She didn't know it yet, but she had just taken the first step in changing the fate of two worlds. Hana couldn't sleep that night. The voice from the crystal kept playing in her mind. A dragon. An alien dragon trapped and dying of thirst. It sounded crazy, but she had felt something real when the water disappeared into the crystal. The next morning, Hana went through her daily tasks at the colony like a robot. She helped her mother in their small garden, attended her virtual classes, and fixed a broken water filter for their neighbor. But her mind was elsewhere. Are you feeling okay? Her mother Minji asked during lunch. You seem far away today. I'm fine, Hana said quickly. Just thinking about a science project. That wasn't completely a lie. This was scientific, wasn't it? Making contact with an alien life form trapped in another dimension. As soon as her chores were done, Hana filled her largest water container, a 5-liter jug that was heavy to carry, and headed back to the crystal formation. She had to be careful. The area was officially off-limits, marked as unstable terrain by colony security. But Hana knew all the blind spots in the security drone patterns. The sun was starting to set when she reached the crystal. It looked ordinary in the fading light, just a strange, slightly glowing rock formation. Had she imagined everything yesterday? Hello? She said quietly, feeling a bit foolish. Dragon, Tejo? Are you there? For a long moment there was nothing. Then the crystal began to glow softly from within. You came back. The voice was weak but clearer than before. You brought water. Yes, Hana said, setting down the heavy jug. I brought more water, but I need answers. Who are you? How did you get trapped? What danger were you talking about? Poor. The water first, please. So thirsty. Hana hesitated, then began to pour the water over the crystal. Just like before, the water didn't splash off or pool around the base. It seemed to sink directly into the crystal, which glowed brighter with each drop. As the last of the water disappeared, The glow intensified. Hana had to shield her eyes. When she looked again, she could see something inside the crystal, a faint shape that looked like a long serpentine body with wings. "Thank you," said Tejo, his voice much stronger now. "That helps so much. I can show you more clearly now." The air around the crystal shimmered, and suddenly Hana could see him more clearly. A massive dragon with scales that should have been bright blue and green, but were now faded to a dull gray. His body was thin, almost skeletal, and his eyes were sunken but filled with ancient intelligence. "You're real," Hana whispered, taking a step back. "You're actually real." "Yes," Taicho said. "I am real, though not fully in your world. I am trapped between dimensions in a prison created by the Galactic Council." "What's the Galactic Council?" Hana asked, sitting down cross-legged in front of the crystal. "They rule most of the known galaxy," Taijo explained. "They bring many worlds under their control. Some join willingly for protection or technology. Others are forced to join. The Council does not allow any power they cannot control." "And they imprisoned you? Why?" Taiyo's image shifted in the crystal. "My kind, the celestial dragons, were born when the universe was young. We can travel between dimensions naturally. We cannot be controlled or contained, normally. The Council saw us as a threat. They hunted us to extinction. I am the last." Hana tried to process this information. "So there's a whole galactic civilization out there and humans don't even know about it? Your world is still isolated on the edge of known space. But not for long. The Council has noticed Earth's technology growing. They will come soon." A chill ran down Hana's spine. "Come for what?" "To bring Earth under their rule. Peacefully if possible, by force if necessary." "And what happens if Earth refuses?" Taijo's eyes dimmed. "The same that happened to my kind. Destruction." Hana stood up, pacing in front of the crystal. This is too much. Why are you telling me?" "I'm nobody. I'm just a 16-year-old girl in a small colony. What can I do?" "You can sense the dimensions," Taijo said. "It is rare even among my kind. That is why you found me. Why you could hear me when no one else could for centuries. But what do you want from me?" Hana asked. "I need more water," Taijo said. "Not just any water. Special water from a sacred pool in the northern mountains. Water with properties that exist in multiple dimensions. With enough of it, I might break free of this prison." "And then what? You'll help Earth against this council?" "Yes," Taijo said simply. "Your kindness saved me when I was dying of thirst for centuries. I will not forget that. And the council must be stopped. They have ruled through fear too long." Hana laughed without humor. "You make it sound so simple. The northern mountains are hundreds of kilometers away. I can't just walk there. And even if I could, why should I trust you? For all I know, you could be dangerous once you're free." The dragon's image rippled in the crystal. "You are wise to question. I can show you the truth. I can share my memories with you, create a bond so you can see who I am and what I have seen." "A bond? Like in my mind?" Hana took another step back. "No way. That sounds dangerous." "It is not. It is a sharing of truth. You will see my memories and I will see yours. Nothing more. You will remain yourself and I will remain myself." Hana considered this. "And if I don't like what I see? If I decide not to help you?" "Then you walk away," Taijo said. "I cannot force you. I can only ask." The sun had set completely now and the twin moons of New Sol were rising. Their light made the crystal glow with an eerie beauty. Hana knew she should head back to the colony before her parents worried, but something kept her rooted to the spot. "How would this bond work?" she asked finally. "Touch the crystal with both hands and open your mind," Taijo instructed. "I will do the rest." Hana hesitated, then slowly placed both hands on the cool surface of the crystal. "Like this?" "Yes, now close your eyes and try to relax." Hana closed her eyes, feeling slightly ridiculous. For a moment, nothing happened. Then she felt a gentle pressure in her mind, like someone knocking on a door. "May I enter?" Taijo's voice asked in her thoughts. "Yes," Hana whispered. Suddenly, her mind was flooded with images and feelings not her own. She saw the universe from the perspective of a being who had lived for thousands of years. She felt the joy of flying between stars, the freedom of moving between dimensions. She saw other dragons, beautiful and powerful, keeping balance in the cosmos. Then came darker memories, the rise of the council, their fear of what they couldn't control, The war against the dragons. Hana felt Taiho's pain as he watched his kind hunted down one by one. She experienced his capture, the creation of his prison, and the endless centuries of isolation and thirst. Finally, she saw Earth through his eyes, a beautiful blue planet full of potential, but marked for assimilation by the Council. She saw Council ships already moving in Earth's direction, still years away but coming steadily. When the visions ended, Hana found herself on her knees, tears streaming down her face. The bond had shown her the truth. Taejo was not a threat. He was a survivor, the last of an ancient and noble race, and he genuinely wanted to help humanity. Now you know, Taejo said gently. Will you help me? Hana wiped her tears away and stood up. The sacred pool in the northern mountains, how would I even find it? I can guide you. Through our bond, I can see through your eyes if you allow it. Hana looked back toward the colony where lights glowed in the distance. Her parents would be worried sick if she disappeared. But if what Taejo showed her was true, the entire human race was in danger. I'll need to plan, she said finally. I can't just leave tonight. I need supplies, transportation, and I need to leave a message for my parents so they don't think I've been kidnapped or killed. Time is short, Taejo warned. But yes, plan carefully. Return tomorrow with more water if you can. It helps me maintain this connection. Hana nodded. I'll be back tomorrow and I'll help you, Taejo. I'll find this sacred pool. As she turned to go, the dragon's voice followed her. Thank you, Hana. You are brave for one so young. Walking back to the colony under the light of the twin moons, Hana wondered if she was brave or just foolish. Either way, her life had changed forever. She was now part of something much bigger than her small colony on New Sol. She had a dragon to save and possibly a world to protect. 3 days passed before Hana could return to the crystal. Colony security had increased after some equipment went missing from the science lab. Drones patrolled more frequently, making it harder to slip away unnoticed. When she finally reached the crystal formation, she carried not only water but also a small backpack filled with supplies, food, a portable shelter, basic medical supplies, and a colony map she had downloaded to her personal device. Taejo? She called softly, touching the crystal. Are you there? The crystal glowed immediately, brighter than before. Hana, came the dragon's voice, sounding weaker than she remembered. I feared you had changed your mind. No, she said, pouring water over the crystal. Security was tight. I couldn't get away until now. As the water disappeared into the crystal, Taiho's form became visible again. He looked worse than before, his scales even duller. What's wrong? Hana asked. You look sicker. The council knows something is happening, Taijo said. They can feel the disturbance in my prison. They are tightening the walls, making it harder for me to maintain our connection. Then we need to hurry, Hana said. I've brought supplies. I'm ready to find this sacred pool you mentioned. Taijo's image shifted in the crystal. It will be dangerous. The northern mountains are not just far away, they are forbidden. Do you know why your colony avoids that area? Hana frowned. The official reason is unstable terrain and dangerous wildlife. But there are rumors about strange ruins up there. The ruins are real, Taejo confirmed. They were built by the Dokebi, the original inhabitants of this planet. The Dokebi? Hana had heard stories about them, mysterious beings who had vanished shortly before humans arrived. I thought they were just legends. They were very real, an ancient race with deep understanding of dimensional science. The council feared them too, but before they could act, the Dokebi simply left. Left? You mean they abandoned the planet? They ascended to a higher dimension, Taijo explained, but they left behind their temples and sacred sites, including the pool we seek. Hana sat down, trying to process this information. So I need to find a pool in a temple built by an extinct alien race in the Forbidden Mountains hundreds of kilometers from here. Anything else I should know? The water in the pool exists in multiple dimensions at once, Taejo said. It is what the Dokebi used to ascend. It is also the only thing that can break through my prison walls. And how exactly am I supposed to get to these mountains? Hana asked. I can't exactly walk there. There are vehicles in your colony, yes? Something small and fast? Hana laughed without humor. You want me to steal a vehicle now? Great. Add theft to my growing list of crimes. Not steal, Tejo said gently. Borrow. You will return it. Hana sighed. There are atmospheric skimmers in the maintenance bay. They're used for quick trips to check on equipment outside the colony, but they're locked up tight. Through our bond, I can help you, Tejo said. I can see what you see, guide your actions. The locks on your human vehicles are simple compared to dimensional physics. Hana wasn't sure if she should be impressed or alarmed by this offer. Even if we get a skimmer, the mountains are still at least a day's journey away. My parents will notice I'm gone. Leave them a message, Tejo suggested. Tell them you are safe but need time alone. Is that not something young humans do? Running away from home? Yeah, but it usually doesn't involve alien dragons and sacred pools. Despite her sarcasm, Hana was already planning. She could leave a message saying she needed space to think, that she was camping at the lake to the south, the opposite direction from where she'd actually be going. It might buy her a few days before a serious search began. If I do this, she said slowly, and if we find this pool and if the water works and you break free, what then? What exactly can one dragon do against an entire galactic council? Taejo's eyes glowed brighter in the crystal. More than you might think. Dragons are not just physical beings. We exist across multiple dimensions. Our power comes from our connection to the cosmic forces that bind reality together. That sounds impressive, but it's also very vague, Hana pointed out. With my full power restored, I can create shields around your planet that the Council cannot penetrate. I can warn other worlds of the Council's true nature, and I can teach humans to defend themselves. Teach us what? Magic? Not magic. Science. Very advanced science that looks like magic to those who don't understand it. The Dokaebi understood. Humans can too. Hana stood up and paced in front of the crystal. This was madness. She was 16 years old, planning to steal a colony vehicle and travel to Forbidden Mountains based on the word of an alien dragon trapped in a crystal. If she told anyone, they'd think she was crazy, but the bond they had shared couldn't be fake. She had felt Taejo's memories, his pain, his honesty, and she had seen the council ships moving toward Earth. When should we leave? She asked finally. Tonight, Taejo said. When your colony sleeps, the security will be minimal. Hana nodded. I'll go back and prepare. I'll leave a message for my parents and pack more supplies. Then I'll come back here after midnight. Bring as much water as you can carry, Taejo added. I will need strength for what comes next. As Hana turned to leave, Taejo spoke again. Hana, thank you. Few beings in this universe would help a stranger from another world. Maybe that's why the Council is afraid of humans, Hana said with a small smile. We do crazy things sometimes. Back at the colony, Hana moved with purpose but tried to act normal. She helped prepare dinner with her parents, laughed at her father's bad jokes, and talked about her classes. All the while, her mind was racing with plans and fears. After her parents went to bed, she wrote a careful message. Mom and Dad, I need some time to think about my future. I've gone camping at South Lake. Please don't worry. I have supplies and my emergency beacon. I'll be back in a few days. I love you both. Hana. She packed more supplies, including all the water containers she could find. Then she waited until the colony grew quiet. At exactly midnight, she slipped out of her family's living unit and made her way through the darkened streets. The maintenance bay was on the far side of the colony, near the agricultural domes. Taejo, she whispered as she approached the bay. Can you hear me? Yes, came his voice in her mind. I can see through your eyes now. The security lock is ahead. The maintenance bay door had an electronic lock that required a worker's ID chip. Hana had no idea how to bypass it. Place your hand near the scanner, Taejo instructed. Not on it, just near it. Hana did as she was told, holding her hand a few centimeters from the scanner. Now focus on our bond. Feel the connection between us. I will do the rest. Hana closed her eyes and concentrated on the strange mental link they shared. She felt a tingling sensation in her fingertips and then heard a soft click as the door unlocked. How did you do that? She asked, amazed. I simply suggested to the lock that it had already been opened, Taijo explained. Dimensional manipulation on a very small scale. Inside the bay, 5 atmospheric skimmers were parked in a neat row. They looked like small aircraft with open cockpits, designed for low-altitude flight over short distances. Take the one on the end, Taijo suggested. It has the fullest fuel cells. Hana approached the skimmer cautiously. I've never actually flown one of these before. I've only watched the maintenance workers. The principles are simple, Taijo assured her. I will guide you. With Taijo's help, Hana started the skimmer. Its engines hummed quietly, much quieter than she expected. She guided it slowly out of the bay and into the night. Head north, Taijo instructed. Stay low until we're past the colony sensors. As the skimmer rose into the air, Hana felt a mixture of terror and exhilaration. She was really doing this, flying away from everything she knew toward an uncertain future. The colony lights fell away behind her as she turned the skimmer north, toward the distant mountains that loomed like shadows against the night sky. There's no going back now, she thought. No, Taijo agreed in her mind. But sometimes the only way is forward. The skimmer accelerated, carrying them toward the forbidden mountains and whatever secrets they held. The skimmer flew through the night, its quiet engines barely audible over the rush of wind. Hana gripped the controls tightly, her knuckles white. The twin moons of New Seoul lit the landscape below, turning forests and plains into a silver-blue dreamscape. You're doing well, Taijo's voice said in her mind. Keep this heading for another hour. How far are these mountains? Hana asked, shivering in the cold night air. She had brought a jacket, but flying at this speed made everything colder. About 400 kilometers from your colony, Taijo replied. At this speed, we should reach them by morning. Hana checked the skimmer's fuel cells. They were at 82% capacity. Enough to get there, but would they have enough to return? She pushed the thought away. One problem at a time. As they flew, Taijo told her more about the Dokaebi, the original inhabitants of the planet. They were not like humans or dragons, he explained. They existed partially in this dimension and partially in others. They could see possibilities, futures that might happen. Like fortune tellers? Hana asked. More like scientists who could observe time differently. They built their temples at places where dimensions naturally thin. The northern mountains are full of such places. Is that why our colony leaders forbid travel there? Because the dimensions are thin? Partly, Taijo said, but also because the Council has agents everywhere. If humans discovered Dokebi technology too soon, the Council would act immediately. This made Hana nervous. Are there Council agents in our colony? Possibly. They often place observers in developing worlds. They may look human, but are not. Hana shuddered at the thought. Aliens living among them, reporting back to some distant galactic government. It sounded like something from a scary story. After 3 hours of flying, the skimmer's warning light began to blink. The fuel cells were dropping faster than expected. We need to land and rest, Hana said. Both me and the skimmer need a break. There is a valley ahead, Taijo guided her. It will provide shelter. Hana landed the skimmer in a small valley between 2 hills. The area was covered with tall, purple-tinged grass that swayed in the gentle breeze. She set up her portable shelter, a small dome that self-inflated when removed from its pack. Inside the shelter, Hana ate some of her food rations and drank sparingly from her water supply. Most of the water she had brought was for Taiho, stored in containers strapped to the back of the skimmer. Try to sleep, Taiho advised. I will watch through your device's sensors. Hana had placed her personal device outside the shelter, set to alert her to any movement. It wasn't much security, but it was better than nothing. What if the colony sends search parties? She asked, lying down on her thin sleeping mat. They will search south first, where you said you were going. By the time they look north, we will have reached the mountains. Despite her exhaustion, sleep came slowly to Hana. Her mind was too full of worries and questions. What if they couldn't find the sacred pool? What if the water didn't work? What if she was caught and punished for stealing the skimmer? Eventually, she drifted into an uneasy sleep filled with strange dreams of dragons flying between stars and ancient beings, ascending to higher dimensions. She woke at dawn to the sound of her device beeping. Something was moving nearby. Hana quickly checked the screen and saw a herd of six-legged creatures grazing on the purple grass. They looked like a cross between deer and lizards with scaled bodies and small antlers. Just local wildlife, she said with relief. Nothing dangerous. We should continue, Taijo urged. The mountains are still far. After a quick breakfast, Hana packed up her shelter and checked the skimmer. The fuel cells had recharged slightly overnight from their solar collectors. But they were still below 60%. We might not have enough fuel to get back, she warned as she started the engines. One problem at a time. Taijo echoed her earlier thought. The sacred pool is our priority. They flew on as the sun rose higher. The landscape below changed gradually, from grassy plains to rocky terrain with sparse vegetation. In the distance, the northern mountains loomed larger, their peaks shrouded in clouds. By midday, they had reached the foothills. The skimmer's fuel cells were down to 40%, and Hana was feeling the strain of constant flying. Her back ached and her eyes were dry from the wind. Where exactly in these mountains is this temple? She asked, looking at the vast mountain range ahead. There. Taijo directed her attention to a particular peak. The tallest mountain. The temple is built into its eastern face. Hana adjusted course toward the mountain. As they drew closer, she could see that it wasn't a natural formation. The peak had been shaped, carved into a series of terraces and platforms that spiraled around the mountain. The Dokebi built this? She asked in awe. Yes, it was their primary temple on this world, the place where they performed their ascension ritual. The skimmer struggled as they gained altitude. The air grew thinner and the engines worked harder. Warning lights flashed on the control panel. We need to land soon, Hana said. The skimmer can't go much higher. There, Taijo pointed out a flat area on one of the terraces. That was designed as a landing platform. Hana guided the skimmer toward the platform. As they approached, she could see that the entire mountain was covered with strange symbols and patterns carved into the rock. They seemed to shift and change as she looked at them, making her eyes hurt. Don't stare at the symbols too long, Taijo warned. They exist in multiple dimensions. Human eyes aren't meant to see them directly. The skimmer landed roughly on the platform, its engines sputtering before shutting down. The fuel cells were nearly depleted. Well, Hana said, climbing out stiffly, we're definitely not flying back today. She looked around at the ancient temple built into the mountain. The architecture was unlike anything she had ever seen. Doorways and windows weren't rectangular, but seemed to curve in impossible ways. Staircases spiraled upward and downward simultaneously. The whole place seemed to defy normal geometry. This way, Taijo guided her toward an opening in the mountain face. The sacred pool is inside. Hana grabbed her backpack and the containers of water for Taijo. The crystal he was trapped in was too large to move, but their mental bond allowed him to see through her eyes and communicate from a distance. The entrance to the temple was a tall, narrow opening that seemed to bend inward. As Hana stepped through, she felt a strange sensation, as if she were walking through a thin curtain of water. The air inside felt different, heavier, charged with energy. What was that? She asked, shivering. A dimensional barrier, Taijo explained. It keeps the temple partially separated from your world. It's why the council hasn't destroyed this place. They can't fully access it. The interior of the temple was dimly lit by glowing crystals embedded in the walls. They gave off a soft blue light that pulsed gently like a heartbeat. The corridors twisted and turned in ways that made Hana dizzy. How do I find the pool in this maze? She asked. Follow the flow, Taijo said. The temple is designed to channel energy toward the central chamber where the pool is located. Hana tried to sense what he meant. After a moment, she noticed that the glowing crystals seemed to pulse in a pattern, like waves moving in one direction. She followed this flow, turning left and right through the twisting corridors. The deeper she went into the temple, the stranger things became. Sometimes she would turn a corner and find herself walking on the wall or ceiling, gravity shifting without warning. Other times she would see glimpses of other places through doorways, alien landscapes or star-filled voids. The dimensional barriers are very thin here, Taijo explained. You're seeing echoes of other worlds. After what felt like hours of walking, Hana reached a large, circular chamber at the heart of the temple. In the center was a pool of water so still it looked like glass. It reflected the glowing crystals above, creating the illusion of stars floating in its depths. The sacred pool, Taijo said with reverence, unchanged after all these centuries. Hana approached the edge of the pool carefully, The water was clear but seemed to have depth beyond what was physically possible. Looking into it made her feel as if she were falling into the sky. "What do I do now?" she asked. "Fill your containers with the water," Taijo instructed. "Be careful not to touch it directly. The water exists in multiple dimensions at once. Human bodies aren't designed to handle that." Hana knelt by the pool and carefully filled her containers with the strange water. It flowed like normal water but seemed heavier somehow, as if it contained more than just molecules of hydrogen and oxygen. "Is this enough?" she asked when all her containers were full. "It should be," Taijo said. "Now we must return to the crystal before—" A loud rumbling interrupted him. The entire temple shook and dust fell from the ceiling. "What's happening?" Hana cried, struggling to keep her balance. "The council." Taijo's voice was urgent. "They've detected the disturbance. They know something is happening with my prison." "We must hurry!" Hana secured the containers in her backpack and ran back the way she had come. The temple continued to shake and cracks appeared in the walls. The glowing crystals flickered erratically. "The temple is destabilizing," Taijo warned. "The dimensional barriers are breaking down." As Hana raced through the twisting corridors, she saw strange shapes moving in the shadows, beings that seemed made of light and darkness simultaneously. They reached for her with limbs that bent in impossible ways. "Don't look at them," Taijo shouted in her mind. "They are council guardians, dimensional enforcers. They can't fully enter this reality, but they can still harm you." Hana ran faster, her heart pounding in her chest. The exit seemed much farther away than she remembered. Corridors that had been straight now twisted back on themselves. Staircases led to dead ends. "The temple is defending itself," Taijo explained. "It's changing its configuration to confuse intruders. But how do I get out?" Hana gasped, stopping at another dead end. "Trust the water," Taijo said. "The sacred water will guide you. Hold one of the containers in front of you." Hana pulled out one of the water containers and held it before her. To her amazement, the water inside began to glow, pulsing in a specific rhythm. When she moved in certain directions, the pulsing grew stronger. "Follow where it leads," Taijo urged. Using the water as a guide, Hana navigated the shifting maze of the temple. The rumbling grew louder, and more cracks appeared in the walls and floor. Several times she barely avoided falling into suddenly appearing chasms. Finally, she saw daylight ahead, the entrance to the temple. With a final sprint, she burst out onto the landing platform where the skimmer waited. The entire mountain was shaking now. Pieces of the carved terraces were breaking off and falling into the valleys below. The sky above had turned a strange purple color, with swirling clouds that moved too fast to be natural. "The council is trying to seal this place," Taijo said. "We need to leave now." "But the skimmer's fuel cells are almost empty," Hana protested. "We don't need to fly far," Taijo assured her. "Just away from the temple. The skimmer can glide down to the foothills." Hana jumped into the skimmer and started the engines. They sputtered weakly but came to life. She guided the vehicle off the platform just as it began to collapse behind her. The skimmer dropped rapidly, its engines struggling to provide enough lift. Hana fought with the controls, trying to maintain a glide path toward the foothills below. "We're going to crash," she shouted as the ground rushed up to meet them. "Not crash," Taijo corrected calmly. "Make an emergency landing." The skimmer hit the ground hard, skidding through low bushes before coming to a stop against a large rock. Hana was thrown forward but saved from serious injury by the safety harness. She sat there for a moment, catching her breath and checking herself for injuries. Nothing seemed broken, though she would have plenty of bruises. "Are you hurt?" Taijo asked with concern. "I'm okay," she assured him. "But the skimmer is definitely not flying again." "It doesn't matter," Taijo said. "We have what we came for. Now we must return to the crystal before the council realizes what we're doing." Hana looked back at the temple mountain. Strange lights flashed around its peak, and the unnatural purple clouds had formed a swirling vortex above it. "How do we get back to the colony?" she asked. "It's hundreds of kilometers away." "There is another way," Taijo said. "The Dokebi built transport gates throughout this world. There should be one nearby that can take us close to your colony." Hana sighed and shouldered her backpack containing the precious water. "Of course there is. Let's go find it." As they left the damaged skimmer behind, Hana couldn't help wondering what she had gotten herself into. But there was no turning back now. She had the sacred water, and soon she would free a dragon. The fate of Earth might depend on what happened next. The Dokkaebi transport gate looked like a simple stone arch standing alone on a hillside. Ancient symbols covered its surface, similar to those Hana had seen in the temple. If Taijo hadn't guided her to it, she would have walked right past, thinking it was just an unusual rock formation. "How does it work?" Hana asked, studying the arch. There were no controls, no technology that she could see. "The sacred water activates it," Taijo explained. "Pour a small amount at the base of the arch." Hana opened one of her containers and carefully poured a tiny amount of the dimensional water onto the ground where the arch met the earth. The effect was immediate and startling. The space within the arch shimmered and changed, no longer showing the landscape behind it, but instead a different location entirely. "That's near my colony," Hana exclaimed, recognizing the rock formations visible through the portal. "It's the forbidden zone where your crystal is." "The Dokkaebi built their gates at places where dimensions naturally thin," Taijo said. "Your colony was built near such a place without realizing it." Hana hesitated before the shimmering portal. "Is it safe? Will I just walk through?" "Yes, the gate simply moves you from one thin point to another. You will feel a slight disorientation, but it is harmless." Taking a deep breath, Hana stepped through the arch. There was a moment of strange pressure, as if she were underwater, and then she was standing in the familiar forbidden zone just a few kilometers from her colony. The journey that had taken hours by skimmer had happened in a single step. "That's amazing," she said, turning to look behind her. The arch was not visible from this side. "How did the Dokkaebi build these?" "Their understanding of dimensional science far exceeded most races," Taijo said. "Even the council feared their knowledge." It was late afternoon and the sun was beginning to set. Hana could see the lights of the colony in the distance glowing against the darkening sky. She felt a pang of guilt thinking about her parents. "They must be worried sick by now. We need to hurry," Taijo urged. "The council knows something is happening. They will be searching for disturbances." Hana made her way quickly to the crystal formation where Taijo was imprisoned. The large crystal glowed faintly in the fading light, pulsing with a weak rhythm like a failing heartbeat. "You look worse," Hana said, concerned by how dim Taijo's image appeared within the crystal. "The council is tightening my prison," Taijo confirmed. "They sense that I am trying to escape. We must act quickly." Hana set down her backpack and removed the containers of sacred water. "What do I do? Just pour it over the crystal like before?" "Not exactly. This water is different. You must pour it in a specific pattern." Under Taijo's guidance, Hana began pouring the sacred water over the crystal in a spiral pattern, starting from the top and working her way down. As the dimensional water touched the crystal, it didn't disappear as regular water had. Instead, it clung to the surface, forming glowing lines that traced the spiral pattern. "Now stand back," Taiho warned when all the water had been poured. "What happens next may be intense." Hana retreated several meters from the crystal. The glowing spiral of water began to pulse faster, matching the rhythm of Taijo's heartbeat within. The air around the crystal shimmered and distorted, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then the crystal began to crack. It started as a tiny fracture at the top, where Hana had first poured the water. The crack spread downward following the spiral pattern. More cracks appeared, branching outward like lightning. The crystal glowed brighter and brighter until Hana had to shield her eyes. A high-pitched sound filled the air, rising in volume until it was almost painful. The ground beneath Hana's feet trembled. Rocks and small plants around the crystal began to float upward, defying gravity. "Taiyo?" Hana called out, frightened by the display of power. "Is this supposed to happen?" There was no answer. The crystal was now glowing so brightly that it looked like a small sun. The cracks had spread throughout its entire surface, and it seemed to be expanding, growing larger and less solid with each passing second. Then, with a sound like thunder, the crystal shattered. The explosion threw Hana backward. She landed hard on the ground. The breath knocked from her lungs. For several moments she lay there, dazed and gasping for air. When she finally managed to sit up, the sight before her made her forget her pain. Where the crystal had been, there now floated a dragon. Taijo was smaller than Hana had expected from their mental connection, about the size of the skimmer she had stolen rather than the mountain-sized beast of legend. His scales were dull and hung loose on his frame, showing the effects of his long imprisonment. But as she watched, the remaining sacred water that had been on the crystal rose into the air and flowed toward him, coating his body in a glowing layer. The water sank into his scales, and before Hana's eyes they began to change. The dull gray brightened, shifting through shades of blue and green that rippled like waves across his serpentine body. His sunken eyes filled with light, and his thin frame seemed to fill out, becoming stronger and more solid. Teo stretched his long body and unfurled wings that had been tightly folded against his sides. They spread wide, translucent membranes that shimmered with the same blue-green colors as his scales. He lifted his head toward the sky and made a sound that was part roar, part song, a sound of freedom and joy that seemed to vibrate through the air itself. Then he lowered his gaze to Hana, who still sat on the ground, staring in wonder. "Thank you, Hana," he said, his voice no longer in her mind but in the air around them. It was deeper now, resonant with power. "You have freed the last of the celestial dragons." Hana slowly got to her feet, wincing at her bruises. "You're smaller than I expected," she said, then immediately felt foolish for saying it. Tejo made a sound that might have been laughter. "This is but one form I can take. In my full power, I could span the distance between worlds, but I am still weak from imprisonment. It will take time to regain my full strength." He lowered his head until it was level with Hana. His eyes were like swirling galaxies, ancient and full of knowledge. "You kept your promise," Hana said. "Now what? How do we stop the Council from coming to Earth?" "First, we must warn your people," Tejo said. "They must know what threatens them." Hana laughed without humor. "And how exactly do we do that? I can't just walk into the colony with a dragon and say, 'Hey everyone, aliens are coming to take over our planet.'" "No," Tejo agreed. "But there are those among your people who already suspect. Scientists who have detected strange signals from space, leaders who have been contacted by Council observers but kept it secret to avoid panic. How do we find these people?" "I can sense them," Tejo said. "Those who have had contact with dimensional energies leave traces that I can follow." Before Hana could respond, a loud alarm began to sound from the direction of the colony. Red lights flashed in the distance and she could hear the hum of drones taking to the air. "That's the colony emergency system," she said, alarmed. "Something's happening." Tejo raised his head, his nostrils flaring. "The Council has acted faster than I expected. They have activated their agents within your colony." "What does that mean?" "It means they know I have escaped. They are trying to secure the area before I can warn anyone." Hana looked toward the colony with growing fear. "My parents are in there." "Then we must go to them," Tejo said. He lowered his body to the ground. "Climb onto my back. It will be faster than walking." Hana hesitated only briefly before climbing onto the dragon's back. His scales were smooth and warm, and seemed to shift slightly under her touch, adjusting to make a more comfortable seat. "Hold tight," Tejo warned. This may be disorienting for a human. Before Hana could ask what he meant, Tejo leaped into the air. His wings spread wide, catching the wind, and they rose rapidly above the ground. But instead of flying directly toward the colony, Tejo twisted in midair, and the world around them seemed to blur. Hana felt that strange underwater pressure again, similar to passing through the Dokebi Gate. Colors swirled around them, and for a moment, she thought she could see stars and distant worlds flashing past. Then reality snapped back into focus, and they were hovering above the central plaza of the colony. People ran in all directions below them, some pointing upward in shock at the sight of a dragon in their sky. "What did you just do?" Hana gasped, clinging tightly to Tejo's scales. "A small dimensional shift," he explained. "Moving through the thin spaces rather than physical distance." Drones were already rising toward them, red warning lights flashing. From one of the colony buildings, figures emerged that looked human but moved with strange, too-perfect coordination. "Council agents," Tejo growled. "They have taken control of your colony's security systems. What do we do?" Hana asked, searching the crowd below for any sign of her parents. "First, I keep my promise to help Earth," Tejo said. He raised his head and a sound emerged from his throat. Not a roar this time, but a complex series of tones that seemed to ripple through the air like the sacred water had. Rippled through dimensions, the sound spread outward in visible waves of energy that passed through buildings and people without harming them. But when the waves touched the disguised council agents, they froze in place, their human disguises flickering to reveal their true forms. Tall, gray beings with too many joints in their limbs. "What did you do to them?" Hana asked. "I revealed them," Tejo said, "and temporarily locked them in this dimension. They cannot shift or communicate with their masters now." Below them, the colony was in chaos. People screamed at the sight of the revealed aliens among them. Security forces surrounded the frozen council agents, weapons drawn. "We need to explain," Hana said urgently, "before people panic completely." Taijo nodded and descended slowly to the central plaza, landing with surprising gentleness for a being his size. People backed away, forming a wide circle around them. Hana slid from Teo's back and stepped forward, raising her hands to show she was unarmed. "Please, everyone stay calm. This dragon is not a threat. He's here to help us." From the crowd, two familiar figures pushed forward, her parents, their faces pale with shock and fear. "Hana!" her mother cried. "What is happening?" "What is that creature?" "Mom, Dad," Hana said, relief flooding through her. "I can explain everything. This is Taijo, he's a celestial dragon, and he's just saved us from alien infiltrators who were planning to take over Earth." As her parents stared in disbelief, Taijo lowered his head in a gesture of respect. "Your daughter speaks the truth," he said, his voice carrying easily across the plaza. "She showed great courage and compassion by helping me when I was dying of thirst after centuries of imprisonment. In return, I have revealed the council agents who were hiding among you." He raised his head to address the entire crowd. "People of Earth, you stand at a crossroads. The Galactic Council has marked your world for assimilation, but you have something they do not expect. A dragon ally who knows their weaknesses." The colony's leader, Administrator Park, stepped forward cautiously. What do you propose?" Taijo's scales rippled with blue-green light. "An alliance. I will teach you to defend yourselves using dimensional science that the Council fears. Together we can ensure Earth remains free." Hana looked up at the dragon she had freed, then at her colony, her home. The future was uncertain, filled with dangers she could barely comprehend. But for the first time, Earth would face that future with knowledge of what waited among the stars, and all because she had offered water to a thirsty dragon. "So," she said, turning to Administrator Park with a small smile, "should I be punished for stealing that skimmer, or do I get a medal for saving the planet?" Taijo made that rumbling laugh sound again. "I think, young Hana, that this is just the beginning of your story." As the sun set over New Sol Colony, a human girl stood beside a dragon from the stars, united by a simple act of kindness that would change the fate of worlds.